got it a couple weeks before and parked it out in the driveway there, and the next morning it wouldn't go. Battery was dead. Well, I had almost all kinds of trouble with that gray Buick that I had. And we discovered that in the glove compartments the light didn't go out. And that wore the battery down. Oh, I had more trouble with that thing. And I went over to the Buick garage over at Worcester. And to see, I had to have a gray car that year. I just couldn't buy any other color. And it was at the end of the season for a lot of, and I couldn't find one yet. So then I went over there and found it. Went over to get it and started and gave him a check for it and left going out of the garage and pulled the emergency brake handle off, and it came off in my hand. So I came back home, and the next day I went back and I said, I think this car is defective. I said, in more ways than one, I'd like to have my old car back. They said it's already been sold. They said you have to pay an extra sales tax. They would give you your money back, but you'd have to pay double the sales tax. You have to pay if you bought another one, right, on the newer one. He said, I don't like that. It just bothered me too much. How about that? Oh, I love this.
Pull Grandma's glasses off.
You're not going to fuss, are you? No, don't you fall. Oh, no. No. Oh, my. Pretty boy. You pretty boy. No, don't you fall. I'm not going to fall. Oh,
don't take her glasses.
They'd be awfully mad at me if I did. There we go. Has he had any sleep today?
Oh, he slept off and on. He's probably looking for a little food.
Oh, is that what he's looking for? Okay, we'll get you something pretty soon. We'll get you something pretty soon, yeah, I won't.
He likes those glasses.
No, they don't like it.
You can't wear those glasses.
No. It's going to be black hair. This hair about it. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
You want to get a mom? She'll give you some.
You want to feed him? You want to feed him? My grandma wants to feed him.
Did you want to feed him?
He probably won't eat with me. Oh, now he says I'm happy.
That'll keep him out.
Time for a refill. We just changed his diapers, so time to fill him up again. Whoops. Tried to do that all at once there.
Can we talk about all the people you've met in your life?
What about?
When you were young, did you ever meet anybody that fought in the Civil War?
Oh, now listen, don't. No, my grandfather, my father's father lived up in Baltimore. I don't know, I suppose it would probably be around that time. So. And I heard my father say that he heard his father say that the blood ran down through the gutters and along the streets because they didn't have any turbines. But that must have been a terrible thing at Gettysburg. I heard that mentioned when I was just a little thing. I do remember that. No, but he never was in the service because he didn't have any teeth hardly, and I guess they had to bite the bullets. So they say, to put them in the guns, bite the end off or whatever. Yeah, I guess that's a story. I know about that, but no, I don't think that anybody that I knew of was in the war. That was a little bit before me.
Well, even somebody that was like 50 or 60 years old could have been a veteran of the Civil War when you were in your teens or your 20s. Don't remember any marches of Civil War veterans, anything like that?
Oh, they had things like that.
In the parades, you'd see veterans?
Yeah. And then, it was, who was it? They just,
Sorry.
in the whatever ward was, they got to start, I know it was my husband's, my husband and his second brother, the second one. The older one was in all the battles in Europe. He said that they would have to move the bodies at night so that they could pitch their tents to sleep. That was how bad it was. He never would talk much about it, but he did say a few things, and that's one of the things I remember. That was Anson. He went through all of that. And but then Homer and my husband were the second and the third one, and they had gone to get their examinations, and they were all ready to go to Columbus. And the flu broke out, and so they held them back from going to Columbus because they didn't want anybody else down there. And in the meantime, this armistice was signed. So neither of the two younger brothers ever had to go, but they were all ready to go. But the older boy, he was in it.
Did you know of any of your high school classmates that fought in
No,
World
I
War One?
didn't. No, I didn't know anybody. I know one of the boys that graduated from in my class. He went to Annapolis.
Ah.
He was assigned to that. That is when he graduated. He got Henry Grant was his name, I think. Yeah, he went to Annapolis. No, I didn't know. I was back to a couple of get-togethers one time over at the National Women's Club of my class. There were about probably 25 or something like that people there. And they were all, of course, married and had families and all that kind of stuff. But I remember that, but it hasn't happened for a long, long time. But they really did get together several times since years ago.
Huh.
But, they're all gone, I bet. I doubt whether there's anybody left them. I don't, no one has ever communicated with me recently.
Of your high school class?
Of my high school class, no.
And what high school was that?
Huh?
What high school?
It's Massillon, Washington High School. Oh, they got a pretty high school over there now. See, the other one that I graduated from was only about 4 or 5 years old when I entered it. And this one here hasn't been very old. And I was supposed to go over there because Judge Dowd is a friend of Ron's. He's a judge in Massillon. He's from Massillon. And they wanted me to come over there at that dedication ceremony. And that was when your mother was so ill. Maybe she had passed away at that time. So I never went over there. So now when Linda graduates and has her celebration, she's going to have me over there, and she's going to tell everybody about her grandmother. But I won't be there, I don't think. But it's not too long. And our Cindy will graduate first. She's just a year behind Cindy. Cindy went to the hospital in Cincinnati for some reason before she entered this one up there. And I don't know why she did that, but they're really only a year apart, but they're 3 years in age difference. I guess she got home all safely the other night. You didn't hear anything anyhow.
I hope she did.
Why don't you move your chair that way, because it looks like the camera angle, you're getting the side of your grandma's head instead of...
Well, turn my thing on here.
So you can hear better?
Yeah, I can hear better. And get it up, and then it's up too high. You hear it? Can you hear that?
A little bit, yeah.
Well,
Now I can't hear.
If I keep my mouth shut, it won't do that.
But I want you to talk. There goes an ice cream truck.
The mailman going by here, I've seen him running around here all afternoon.
Uncle John was at Uncle Ron's house last night.
Oh, you
'Cause they
are?
went down to an affair for Lincoln High School.
Oh, oh.
All the graduates of Lincoln High School got together.
Oh, I see.
Not all of them, but those who wanted to get together. And Uncle John was talking about how when he was growing up, there was milk delivered to the house.
Oh, sure.
And he remembers when there was a horse-drawn carriage that used to deliver things to the house.
The what they deliver?
A horse and carriage.
I don't know. I don't remember that.
Horse
No one
and a
else
wagon.
did either last night.
But they probably did, but I don't think they ever delivered that to me here. It was the dairy company was owned by a cousin of mine, or cousin of my husband's, Opal Bagley, Opal Banks, Bircher Bagley. She was married twice. Everyone she married began with a B. And those were the names. Her maiden name was Banks, because my husband's mother's maiden name was Banks. B-A-N-K-S. And but she used to deliver the milk here. 5 o'clock in the morning she'd come, and then it would be 0 weather. And by the time we got up and got the milk off of the back porch, the cream was up out of the top of the bottle so high. Then you took it in, and of course it just melted and went back down in the bottle again. But she delivered the mail. She just passed away not too long ago. She was the last one that I know of that was still living, and she died. Opal Banks, Bircher. And Mr. Banks was my mother-in-law's brother. And there were 5 boys. There was John Banks, there was W.O. Banks, and there was Luff. One of them was called Luff. That's all I ever knew of his name. Now, what his real name was, I don't know. I don't know.
Luff
Whether that
Banks?
was his real name, or but Uncle Luff was his real name,
L-U-F-T?
I suppose. And where he ever got that or what that meant, I have no idea. But those people are all gone, years ago. Yeah.
Well, tell us about the first time you saw your husband.
Yeah. I used to see Opal down at the club. She didn't belong to the Women's Club, but she came to another organization that I belonged to that always meets at the club. And that's, I would meet her. We were never very close. And her father was a barber. And my husband used to take him over to his house, and he would trim the boys' hair, and John didn't like it very well. He'd cry.
Why?
This little fellow.
Why didn't he like it?
I don't know, he was scared, I guess, of the clippers or whatever. Yeah, he always used to cut their hair.
Well, how did you meet your husband? When did you see him the first time?
Well, I met him at a bunch of us young ladies. It was after I was out of high school and working.
Did you do any dating in high school?
What?
Did you do any dating in high school?
I never had a boyfriend in high school, no. But no, I met him, and he and his second brother, Homer, they decided to come over from Brewster, and they came over to take dancing lessons. And so did we a bunch of girls, my friends. We all decided we were going to take dancing lessons, and that's where I first met him.
How did he dance? Was he a good dancer?
What?
Was he a good dancer?
Me?
No, your husband.
And he didn't care too much about it. No, he didn't.
Were you a good dancer?
What?
Were you a good dancer?
Was me?
Right.
Yeah, I'll have to brag a little bit now. The teacher used to take me out the center of the floor as a demonstrator.
Oh.
I have to say that. I loved to dance, but then we didn't do much of it after he got married. He didn't like it, and so I gave it up. Yeah.
Well, that must have been what caught his eye.
But
Because you were a good dancer, it must have caught his eye.
Oh, I'll tell you what he did, you know, there were a bunch of people, kids, great big hall, it was at the top of a theater over there. And they would line all of the girls on one side and then the boys across the floor, you know. And his brother Homer said, "That's the girl over there you have to get." That was me. So every time, and then, the teacher would say, the instructor said, "Now you can go across." Well, everybody just went beeline. They had somebody picked out to be everybody, you know. And every time somebody would move out of line, and so my husband never would catch me. Finally, one time he did, and so that's the way I got acquainted with him. So finally, he got me as a partner, and so then you could dance with the partner that you chose. Otherwise, you just went around the floor and you took whoever you would stop in front of. No, that was great fun. I liked to dance at that time. Yeah.
Well, tell us about the time that your husband asked you to marry him. How did your husband propose to you?
Well, that I just don't remember much about.
You
Really.
don't?
I really don't. I really don't.
Did he get down on his knee?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he had to.
Did he give you a ring?
What?
Did he give you a ring? An
yes,
engagement ring?
He proposed, but I can't tell you how he did it. Whether it was in home or where. I know where Bill and Joni, Bill
Right.
proposed in the park up at the
In Brecksville.
Brecksville, sitting on the bench in the park. Well, whichever it doesn't make any difference. Just so it's
How long did you date before you got married?
Well, I didn't go with him steady right away because he graduated from high school or he was graduated from high school, of course. So was I. I was working at that time, but he was working for the Canton Hardware. He traveled from school. He stayed over wherever he landed. He used to stay in a lot of people's that owned the hardware companies' homes because there were no hotels or motels to stay in. Oh no, I knew him a long time before I went steady with him, and then I was working, and one day Ron thought I was an operator in the telephone. I never was an operator. I was the main secretary of the manager. I was his secretary.
At the telephone company?
He mentioned that, yes, at the telephone company. I had nothing to do with the operators, but of course we did have operators then.
Right.
But it was a crank-up thing when you called me to call, got the operator on the phone, and she got the number for you. And I just told him that the other day about that I was working there. He didn't know that either, that when they went over into the automatic system, they had in the new building, all of the new equipment's in there. And I was working there at that time when they changed it over. I worked there several years after they had the automatic system. But I worked there 6 years before I got married. And Ron didn't know that. He thought I was an operator. I said, no, I never was an operator. But they did have operators. I don't know how many, but no, I never was an operator. But I was going to tell you the story about it. So then I was working in the business office there and waiting on some people that came in. I did that too and paid their bills. A couple of linemen came into the office and they said, we just saw an accident down the highway. And so they started describing it, and it was, he bought a second-hand Buick roads, they call them convertibles now, but I guess they just call them roadsters or whatever they were. It had a canvas top on it, it wasn't enclosed with a firm body. And they were going from the Canton Hardware. Hubert was working at the hardware at that time, and they were going. It was early in the afternoon. They left work at 4 o'clock. They were going out into the woods down around Brewster, and they were going to do some shooting at Mark, stuff. Hubert he didn't know much about a gun, so they were going. That's what they were going. They got down to the corner of the Richfield Road that goes then you turn and go into Navarre, and the streetcar ran right across the edge of the road. We had streetcars, those days. That's when we used to go uptown on streetcars. And the streetcar ran right along the main highway down here over to Massillon. And went as far as Navarre, turned around, came back, and went through here, and Massillon, back into here. And didn't the motor, they said the motor, the man was driving the streetcar, was driving the car too fast. He was behind schedule, and the boys didn't hear it coming, and the streetcar hit him. Knocked into the car and just smashed the car to pieces. But Hubert wasn't hurt, but my husband was I wasn't my husband then, I was just somebody I knew at that time. And he injured his knee. He got banged up knee. And but anyways, that was that. So in describing the car, I thought to myself, well, that's the same boy that I just met. I didn't know him very long, you know. And that's who it was him. So he sued the NOT, that's the National Ohio Traction Company, they call it. NOT, and so he sued them for damages to his car and his damages, and they asked him to show his injury to the jury, and he said, in that case I have to take my pants down. And they say, well, we'll pass that, we won't let you do that. So that was passed, but he did, and all he got out of it was about $1,200, so he told me. Yeah.
So you started dating after you found out that he got $1,200?
Oh no, but I didn't have anything to do with it. Yeah, I didn't think so much about money in those days. I didn't have very much of it. I didn't make very much of it either.
Well, where did you go on your dates?
Oh, we went to the theater, and that's about it. And we used to come over here for dinner, and then to top it off, there was a restaurant, you know, where this Canton Club is.
Right.
You go in the back end there. And, well, that was a restaurant. At the back end of the bank, there was a restaurant in there called the Crescent Restaurant. We used to come over here on Saturday nights. Take me out for dinner, and we would go in there, and there was a foreign type man that was waiting table. And so every time he saw us coming, he'd make a point to get to wait on us, because my husband would talk to him. And that's what he liked, you know, because he was new in this country. And but then in the years past, then he started a restaurant of his own. What's her name? Morgus restaurant. You heard of that? It's down in the corner of Cleveland and West Tusk, the opposite corner from Stern and Mann's. And he started that restaurant, and it was a great success. A lot of people used to go there. A lot of the business people from downtown, and so he made that a really success. But in the meantime, in my garden club, I became acquainted with a lady named Ada Mergus, and this was his wife. And they were married, and they had one daughter. She doesn't live in Kent. She lives in some other place down south in Ohio, I think, somewhere. But they had this one daughter, but he isn't living anymore. And so I had to tell her that story, that I knew her husband before I ever met her. And she's a very delightful person. Ada Mergus is her name. Ada. I had a sister-in-law named Ada too, Ada.
You like that name?
Now, how many? You had just one brother?
I only had one brother.
And your husband
He
had?
died. My father died in November the 27th, 1953. That was just before Ron graduated. He was home at Thanksgiving time, and My father was in the hospital for something, I forget, some little thing. But he was home, and he was steadfast at that time. And so then my father died in '53, and my brother died in July of 1954. He had very bad pneumonia when he was young, very young, and almost died. If it wasn't for my mother's care that she gave him, he'd never made it. Well, that left his lungs kind of weak all of his life, so he developed asthma. He had an asthmatic condition, and that's what he had. He had to fight that all the time. He never was very well. I was the strong one, and he died. And he called. My sister-in-law called me, and she said, "You better come over right away." She said, "Your brother's in the hospital in very bad condition." And I hurried up and started to get some clothes on to go, and they called me back and said he was gone. That was when he died.
Where did your brother live?
What?
Where did your brother live? Your brother?
My brother lived in Maston,
And your
and
sister?
he had one daughter.
Do you ever see your niece?
I don't think I've ever seen her since the funeral, but she doesn't pay attention to me. I don't either.
What is her name, or who was she married to?
Her name was Doris May. Yeah, she's a little older than your mother. Quite a number, almost 3, 4 maybe years older, 5 maybe years older.
Did she ever have any kids? Did Doris May ever have any children?
She what?
Did she ever have any children?
Well, I don't know much about her even. She married, I think, and I don't know where she is. I know what her, she married, because I know what her name, her married name is Twining, Twining, Twining. And they had a home down at Atwood, and in the summertime they lived down there, and then in the wintertime he worked for the steel company over in Maston. Instead of traveling back and forth from down there, they had a trailer home over in Maston for several months. They owned it. I learned that from some source, I don't know.
So, what day and what year did you get married?
What year did what?
What day and what year did you get married?
Me?
Uh-huh.
I got married on September the 5th, 1925.
In what church?
I didn't get married in a church by there.
Where did you get married?
I got married in the parsonage of the Methodist Church downtown.
Oh. And who attended the ceremony?
No, I had my sister-in-law, Esther, and my husband's brother, Homer, were our attendants, and we went for dinner at Bender's. We had dinner at Bender's, and they went home, and we took off. That's all.
I think we need a plug, Daddy. I think there's
Somebody's
a
tired.
bag.
I betcha.
Grab a plug.
It's nice to tell old stories, because when I start telling them, and my daughter would say too, "Mother, I know when you're getting old. That's the only way I know you're getting old is you repeat things." So they say, "Well, we've heard that before." The boys tell me that. Yeah.
Well, how many brothers and sisters did your husband have?
He had, there were 5 in the family, 4 boys and the girl. The girl was the youngest one. She's gone too. She died soon. All of them are gone. My sister-in-law Irma died before, or was it Ada died first, and then my sister-in-law Esther died, and then my sister-in-law Mary, the friend of hers took her out to the hospital. She was ill, and so they said, "Well, go to the hospital." So she was in the hospital, and that night she called the friend that took her there and said, "Oh, I feel much better. They gave me something to put me to sleep." And she said, "And then I'll find out what's the matter with her." And didn't she die that night? She died in her sleep. You can't imagine. And they called me, and then her son lives down near Washington, D.C. He lives in, where does he live? Just right out of Washington. John has visited with him several times. I don't know whether Ron has ever been down there or not, but he's in the same kind of business that John's in.
And what's
Stockbroker down there.
what's his name?
His name is Russell. Russell Antonio is his name. And he has 2 children. And he married a girl that was going to be a nun.
I guess she changed her mind.
And she changed her mind, and she met Russell, and they got married. She's a very lovely person. Very, very nice person. They have 2 nice, beautiful children. They're, the girls out of, probably the boys just graduated from college by now. They're grown up. They have a boy and a girl. But he called me from Washington to D.C. the next morning, at 8 o'clock the phone rang, and he said Mother died. And I didn't even know she was ill. And I live right here in the same town with her. That isn't a surprise. Yeah, but she's gone. She's been gone since 1984. She died in 1984. My sister Irma died in 1970, something, I forget that. She had spinal meningitis. She was getting over that, and didn't they give her a blood transfusion with something else, maybe the same thing, and she died from that blood transfusion, but she was supposed to be getting well over the other. Yeah.
What did your grandfather do for a living?
So what?
What did your grandfather do for a living?
What did he do?
For a living?
Oh, I tell you, in those, my grandfather, you have to go way, way back when there isn't much that anybody in those days ever had to do. They're farmers. They either were carpenters, or what else would they have been? Or they worked for the railroad. And that's where my father worked. You know, he worked 50 years for the railroad. And never had an accident. And they had him up to be the railroad train master of the wheeling and carry system. And when they found out that he didn't have much of an education, of course, he was out. But he knew enough about it, probably more so than somebody that had more of an education than he did. But I doubt whether he ever went to high school. Because when they got to be about 8, 9, 10 years old, they had to seek for work. People didn't have any money in those days.
What did his father do for a living?
My father, ex-father, I haven't any idea. I was quite little when he died.
How about your mother's father?
My mother's father, he was I think he was a carpenter. He's a little man, he's Irish, you know. He's the one that came directly from Ireland.
Did he have an accent?
Married.
Did he have a heavy accent?
My father, never.
No, your mother's father.
My mother's father, being a carpenter?
No, did he have an Irish accent?
No, I don't think so.
No accent? He didn't speak Irish?
Oh,
Was it
yes,
Irish?
but I never heard them talk Irish, but, oh yeah, they had an accent. My grandmother was more so than what he was. But I love to hear them talk.
And what was
They never quite lose that.
what was his name? What was his name?
My grandfather's name was Joseph.
Joseph Arnold?
No, his name was Hoban.
Hoban.
Hoban. Yeah. So then my grandmother was Gavin. Mary Gavin was her name. That's where I say that. And you didn't even know that. You had no idea. I don't think I ever mentioned it.
don't you want to go to sleep? Don't you want to go to sleep?
Your little boy.
Or do you just prefer to spit out your pacifier?
Yeah, so you named him your middle name too, Gavin. Clayton. I didn't know it at the time when I did that on work on there. I could have got it on all right if they hadn't made 2 lines in it. But,
So I kind of wanted to name him Gavin David Hoffman.
you what?
I wanted to name him Gavin David Hoffman. But his first 2 initials were not good initials.
It'd be GC.
It would be GD if his middle name was David.
GDH.
Right.
Well, you know, Joni can't use her middle name with her name, but you're really supposed to when you sign your check.
JW.
You're supposed to use your maiden name from your middle, you know, your first name, and then your maiden name, and then your married name. And I don't use that because I didn't like it that way. I liked my middle name is E, and I like the AED better than the AAD. It's harder to say. I mean, I like the E the best, so that I always write my checks that way. But the other way is the proper way to do it.
Why were you named Agnes?
Why?
Huh?
I have no idea. There was nobody in the relative relationship that ever had that name. Of course, it's a Catholic name, of course. My parents were Catholic, and but believe it or not, I have never seen so many people having either the first name that or their middle name in the paper. People die, and they're not very old. They're only in their early 60s or 70s. And why that was happening, I don't know. You never hear anybody called that, named that today.
How about Elizabeth? Where did that come from?
Oh, Elizabeth, I like Elizabeth.
Do you know why you were given that name?
But no, I didn't have any relatives named Elizabeth either. I don't know where they got that.
How did you pick Ronald and John?
Well, of course, I picked John from my father's name was John. And Ron's name, and Patrick was the other grandfather. My father's name was Patrick Dougherty, so that's the way we got his 2. But Ronald Dougherty, we went to see a movie one night, and it was a person who was in the aviation. He piloted an old-plane, you know, the little old planes just like Wright invented. They were something similar to that in this movie. And I can't tell you the name of the movie, but the pilot's name was Ronald. And that's where we got that. We liked it, and then we used Ronald, and William was our dentist, his first name, and he was a good friend of my husband. They were very good friends. And that's where we got the William. So his name is Ronald William Dougherty. That's where we got that. Yeah. So that's the way it goes. And my mother's name was Celia. And her middle name was Aurelia.
Celia Aurelia?
Now that's a combination. That's Irish. Well, she was Irish. She was not full-blooded. Yes, she was full-blooded Irish, both of them. Yeah, that's right. But her father came from Ireland. Yeah.
How did you pick the name Rosemary?
Yeah, Aurelia is her middle name. Orilia, I suppose you would spell it. I really never have seen it written, so I imagine that's how you would spell it. And the Celia would be Celia. Well, what's in a name?
A lot of things, I think.
Yeah. No, I like Elizabeth. And that's where Joni gets her Elizabeth. See, her your grandmother, was always called Betty.
Right.
But her middle name was, was her maiden name? Esther. And what was her middle name? Esther, I know it just as good as,
Gertrude.
what?
Gertrude?
Your grandmother,
Uh-huh.
Huffman. What did I forget now? It'll come to me tomorrow and I'll call you up and tell you.
All right.
Yeah. You better not talk, wake him up.
Keep going.
Oh, he can sleep through anything.
If you keep just the rhythm of your voice sometimes keeps him to sleep. He's fighting it, but he's getting there.
Well, let's see, what else can I tell you?
Lots of things.
I did this,
When was the first time you flew in a plane?
what, this is the first time?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I made quite a few trips to Florida, but I don't like to fly. I just went because the kids wanted me to go. We went up to the airport one, and your mother would come down in the dead of winter time. It was cold, icy maybe. She never failed to come down at 7. The plane left at 7 something in the morning. But she would be there in spite of anybody telling her not to. She'd come to see me off. Well, she was there this one time, and the man by the name of, and what's his name, a preacher here in town, and he was up around Silver Lake up there. His cathedral was, not Hamringhausen. I did know a preacher by the name of Hamringhausen, but he lived here in Canton, and his wife was a friend of mine. I know her. She still goes to Wollongong, but he died some years ago. But he used to have the cathedral up there at Akron, and then he'd get people to sign their wills over to him, and he got a lot of their property. And he had a great big 7-floor or something like that apartment building down right close to where Grace Stover lived. And that's the way he got that, was taking people's money. But anyhow, Humbard.
Rex
That
Humbard.
was his name. Well, he was, they were holding the plane up for somebody. We were all ready to leave, and they were waiting for him. And he was late in getting there, and there were 2 or 3 other guys with him. And when they came to the clerk to get their reservations, one of the clerks said, "Well, good morning, Rex," and his name was Rex Humbard. And and that got to your mother. She heard it, and she turned around to see who it was. She knew who he was because she had seen him a lot of times. And she turned around, and there he was. And that's who they were holding the plane up. Well, he got on the plane, and I know that he turned around. He had a real nice smile to everybody that was sitting behind him. But anyway, when he got on the plane and they started to take off, and your mother made a remark to the boys, and they said, "Mother, be sure to get there." She says, "Rex Humbard's on the plane." And I said, "Oh, my goodness sakes, if I'd have known that, I would have been more scared of flying." I said, "Because I don't think the Lord likes what he does." Yeah, he was actually on the plane. Then one time we went down to Florida, and Ron was already down there. He had driven down with somebody down below Florida somewhere playing golf. So then when he was going to come back up and pick us up and take us home, and Carrie and Russell were just little kids, and anyhow, and we got on the plane, and Carol, we sat right pretty close to the front of the plane, but anyway, Carol said, "Do you see who is sitting across the aisle from us?" And I said, "No." She said it was Ralph Regula and his wife. They were fine. You see, we had a change at, I think we changed at Atlanta at that time, and then people were going they'd get the plane from there to Washington, D.C. That's where they were going, and we were going straight to Florida. That's why we would probably make the stop there. So they went on to, that's the first time I ever saw Ralph Regula. I heard about him and saw his name in the paper a lot, but I never met him. I've seen her quite a few times. She's quite a speaker. But I've never heard him speak, so I don't know. But the ladies think that she can do a better job of it than he does. I don't know anything about him. They say he was elected again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Just like Uncle John.
Yeah. No, John's been places he's been a lot of times. They put in what they call a spur down in Navarre. The railroad did it, the Wheeling Lake area did it. They bring in the back sections of the truck. You know, you can disconnect them from the main part of the machine part of the automobile or the truck. And they bring them in on the railroad cars. And it's a wonderful thing. And John took me down quite a few times and showed me that. But it's right down Navarre. And it's a terminal, whatever they call it. I forget what they call it. And they bring these sections loaded with stuff. See, that saves a lot of transportation with trucks on the highway. And then at the front end of the truck will come and pick it up, whatever it's supposed to go, wherever place it's supposed to go. It's quite a thing down there. You should see it. But I saw that one, and the big machinery that takes those things up and picks them right up and puts them on the back and kicks them in the truck. It's interesting. I saw it being built and constructed.
When was that?
Oh, it's been a couple of years now. It hasn't been too long since. And it was on the television. It was shown on the television not long ago. Probably not where you are, but it was shown here. It's quite interesting. My son has gotten into.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Into everything.
He came to talk at Canton's Roses at the Women's Club one time at a meeting we had down there. And I didn't know about it at first, but towards the end, close to the meeting time, I learned that he was going to be the speaker. And so then we were all there, quite a lot of people, and for lunch. And I knew exactly what he was going, and I went and sat at a table way over by the wall because I didn't want to be near where he was, and to maybe make him a little bit embarrassed, or you know, he never was cut out to be a speaker, but he does a pretty good job of it. But anyway, I thought I bet you 10 cents that he comes over here. They never fail to come and kiss me, never. And didn't he walk right straight across that floor, all in among the tables, right over to where I was, and kissed me right in front of everybody? And he did the same thing when he left. Yeah. Then when he started talking, he said, "I used to listen to my mother, but," he said, "now today she's got to listen to me." So that started the thing off. Well, he told him all about what he does at being the commissioner and about the things they have to do and all. But he has worked at that. He goes out to meetings all the time at night. Nobody has ever done that, and you never hear any. I always say to him, when I first knew he was going to run, I said, "Oh, I wish you wouldn't do that, John. People will start criticizing. They always like to criticize somebody, you know." And I said, "I can't take that." He said, "Mother," he said, "it won't bother me in the least." He said, "Maybe in years past it might have done it," but he said, "No more." He said, "I don't pay attention to it." And do you know that there isn't any criticism about him in the paper? No. And so I said to him not long ago, I said, "Why don't they start criticizing you?" But they must be doing a good job of it, or they would be criticized. Now they're after the bus business. They're going to discontinue the bus service in Canton, Ohio, of all things. It's been in the papers, something about it tonight. And, people that don't have automobiles, how are they going to get around? I suppose in the end there'll be some way that they figure it out, that they'll have a bus service, but they voted it against it at the voting time.
Maybe they'll bring streetcars back.
That's what somebody wanted them to do. Oh my, that'd be funny. Yeah. I used to, when I was first married, I didn't have any transportation because we only had one automobile. And I could have got the mass that went right past here, and I could go down wherever the stop place was. I could go down. If you see, they would see you there, they would stop to get. But instead of that, I couldn't. They only ran a certain length of time, maybe every half hour, or else I forget the schedule. So I would want to go downtown at the off time, you know. So I'd walk up to what they call Lake Junction. It's down here, up quite a ways up here, and that's where the interurban that was running in Canton used to come, and then go around the circle there, and it would go clear out to Myers Lake. You know, Myers Lake used to be quite a place to be. It was an amusement park, you know, and that's where the streetcar used to go, and then it would make the turn out there and come back and go into town again. And then of course, the ones that went to Massillon, they'd go over to Massillon. Yeah. Oh, that was an exciting time. But I used to walk up there because I was young then. I'd get the streetcar into town and do my shopping and come out home.
So where you did your grocery shopping too?
I don't know about the grocery shopping. It's kind of I don't know. Well, of course, my husband would take me in the car and have to do the shopping.
Where did you, when you first moved to this house, where did you get your groceries?
Well, let's see. I think there was a grocery shop down the end of the street here. There was a restaurant down there called Eckert's, and they used to serve hot dogs to people in the parking places, and the girls had roller skates. They came to your car and got your order on roller skates. Yeah, that was the thing in those days. But that building was torn down here some years back now, and it's another restaurant built a new one. They call it the Flaming Pit, and so it's still there. It's there now.
I guess it's a barbecue place.
Well, I don't know it's exactly a barbecue, but that's what they call it. That's what it started out to be.
So did you ever go to that amusement park?
But
You were talking about on the streetcar. You used to go to the amusement park area.
Myers Lake, oh, that's closed up.
Did you used to go there?
Oh, we went there, yes.
And what was there?
I used to take the boys out there. They'd have something in the high school, would have something out there, and I used to take the boys out.
What could you do out there?
Well, you have a roller coaster, and you had a merry-go-round, and they had the merry-go-round in some place. They took it all apart, and they put it together again, but that's the Myers Lake roller coaster, or merry-go-round. Yeah. I took the boys out there to doings that the high school had one time. That was my husband, was very ill at that time too. And there was some other boys, I think, in the car. Your mother was in college at that time, and I picked up my purse and I put it down this side of me because there were two kids sitting in the front, and not two other people, boys or somebody, sitting in the front seat with me. And when I went to open the door, my purse fell out, and I had quite some of money at that time, considered to be, and I had just bought a whole roll of postage stamps. It was in it, and I never got it back. Now somebody that belonged to that school must have found that, and they were not honest enough to return it. So that's the way it is.
He's trying to give you grandma.
I don't think the boys ever heard that story, so. As I say, your mother said that, used to say that I know how, that you're getting old, mothers, when you repeat things. So.
You always have new stories.
What?
You always have new stories. You always tell stories that I've never heard before.
Well, you never, and I don't think I heard some of the ones I've told tonight either.
Uh-huh.
So I have to remember those.
Well, we're supposed to go over to Uncle John's next.
You're supposed to.
Uh-huh.
Are you going to dinner?
Well, I don't know if we're going to have dinner there, but we're supposed to visit there.
Oh,
Why don't you give him a quick call just to...
I think I'll give him a call. Let him know that we're coming.
yeah,
To Uncle John's.
yeah. Maybe you better, maybe they are around. They could be waiting for you.
He's out of gas.
It's too bad to wake him up now. Well, it's a great life. It's an interesting life. I lost my mother early, and my father, or my husband, and then all my sister-in-laws and some of the brother-in-laws and my own brother, and then his wife, his wife, I went to her funeral, but you have to take the good with the bad, I guess.
Well, you've
And all
got...
my friends, I know 35 people in my Sunday school class, they're all gone. It's hard to believe, but when you get to be 98, who lives that long?
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm here. I'll have to think about that. And I guess my job isn't finished. I don't know. Did you get them?
Yep.
Are they waiting dinner? Are they?
Oh, I don't think they're waiting dinner.
Oh.
Hear that?
If you had a blanket, you could roll him up in a blanket.
Yeah.
He's still making noises.
It isn't so cold out today, is it?
No.
I haven't been out.
I would have bundled him up a lot more if it were called out.
Well, I'll think of something the next time. I haven't told you. If I start telling you the same thing over, you just say that that's a repeat.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Oh, this house wasn't the same. We didn't have much in it. We got married, we had a dining room. That isn't my original dining room out there. That's the one my mother just bought that new at home. And they bought a new bedroom outfit too. And my brother took the bedroom because he could use that, and he couldn't use that big furniture in his dining room, so I took that, and I gave my other set to my mother-in-law. But anyhow. My renter moved out over here, the girl. She must have put the keys in the box either yesterday. This is Saturday, Friday, that was yesterday. She either did it yesterday, or she did it just yesterday morning, or the night before, one or the other, I forget. She put the keys in an envelope, put it in my mailbox. Yeah. Yeah. I used to put the quick pen right by that kitchen door, then when I was getting my kids with the kids, Ronnie was not very old, so he didn't seem much old. Baby was born. And he was probably in the failure, and John was tucked away somewhere else. And he got a whole bunch of little toys, and then the first thing you know, they were all out on the floor. And I'd ask him to pick them up. Well, that's the only way I could get my work done,